in, welcome. Feel free to join or drop where you're joining from in the chat. And I'm going to go ahead and get started with the content. So, quick intro, I'm Isa Hasty. I'm the Senior Manager of Product Positioning here at Feathr. So I host our webinars. I meet with Feathr users all the time and talk to them about what's working for them, what's not when it comes to nonprofit digital outreach. So I'm really kind of in the weeds with organizations like yours. I know we have a good number of customer attendees on here, customer registrants for this webinar. So if you are a customer, welcome. And yeah, feel free to drop in any thoughts or input you have as we're talking through some of these campaigns that hopefully you've tried or are trying out in Feathr. Welcome, Katniss. Hope things are going well so far. And for anyone who is new to Feathr, Feathr is a digital marketing platform specifically designed for nonprofits. So we serve 501c3s, arts and culture organizations. So all of the 501c3s from arts and culture to charities, human services orgs, animal rescues, all of those kinds of things, food banks. And we have YMCA customers. And we also have a lot of association customers, so any member-based organizations out there in the audience. If you're an association, you're looking to get member renewals, you're looking to reach new people to join your organization, trying to get event attendees to show up. Even if you're trying to drive some additional revenue streams, non-dues revenue, there's a lot you can do in Feathr to monetize your audience online, basically, and sell that access to sponsors. So I'm not going to get into that specifically today. That's called sponsored retargeting. But I will be talking about that next week on a webinar, which I will actually drop the link really quickly to that for anyone who wants to register. I know that there's not as many associations as 501c3s on here today, but I still would like to put that link in. So if you want to just open that in a new tab, you can come back to it later, but definitely register for that if you are an association, because that will be specifically about membership and non-dues revenue. So hopefully lots to gain from that webinar if you are member-based association. And I know a lot of associations also have foundation arms and sort of are in the giving space. And so hopefully this webinar today is helpful for you as well if you do have that. And all of the things that we're going to talk about today, the channels, the tactics, the way that you should be thinking about the next generation of supporters, these are all things that any organization should be taking into account, whether you're a nonprofit, an association, retail companies are thinking about these things too, right? So it's all about figuring out how to get to your audience where they are online, no matter what it is that you're doing. Every organization has an audience, so it's finding them where they are, finding them where they're already spending time, serving them ads, sending them emails, doing all of the things to get in front of them in more places than just one channel, right? We'll talk a little bit about social media as well. So yeah, just quick agenda. So we will be talking about some changes overall in giving trends in the last couple of years and heading into, the rest of 2026. We will be looking at these next gen personas and kind of thinking about how you need to be reaching younger people specifically online. We'll talk about the tools and the channels that you can use to do those things, and then some recommendations around strategy, budget, and some KPIs that you should be aiming for with your different campaign types and your efforts. And I mentioned this before, but this recording will be sent out tomorrow. So look in your email inbox for the recording and the slide deck tomorrow. So you'll be getting those. All right, so none of this should be much of a surprise to anyone here. Obviously, outreach feels harder because it is harder, right? Teams are stretched, attention is fragmented, leadership wants clearer proof that the work that you're doing is paying off. And if you don't have the right tools to prove exactly what's working and what's not, it's easy for budget to be cut for tools that you really do need or programs that you're running that really do have an impact. But if you can't prove that impact, sometimes it's difficult to get the budget you need and the support you need internally. So proving impact and proving ROI are a huge challenge, I think, for nonprofits. And so there's ways that you can prove these things through the right kind of tracking tools and analytics tools. And yeah, just generally inbox fatigue, there's declining engagement. Email is still very effective for nonprofits, but you have to reach people outside of just the email inbox, especially, at certain times of year, end of year, it's really hard to kind of cut through the noise. So you want to make sure that you're showing up on various different channels so that you're going to show up for people, even if they're not opening every email that you send. And then, yeah, so supporters are just simply more selective with their time and attention. So it's harder to reach people. People know exactly what they want. People are being served very tailored, personalized online experiences by a lot of companies, mostly retail companies who have huge budgets and huge marketing teams and a deep understanding of how digital advertising works and how to really do it in that personalized way. So while a lot of you on here might be a team of one or a team of three wearing multiple hats, the idea is not to try to be like a for-profit organization, but simply to take a page out of that book because we know that it works, right? They're using digital ads. They're doing, when the ad for the shoes that you looked at but didn't buy pops up and follows you around, and then you're like, okay, I actually do want those shoes. They're really cute. Whatever it is, you have to be doing that with your potential donors, lapsed donors, potential members, current members, everyone that you're trying to reach as an organization. Those people are online expecting to see content from the organizations that they're engaged with or want to be involved with. And so it won't come as a surprise to see your organization pop up. And so you want to be showing up in those spaces. Fewer staff, tighter budgets, like I said, higher expectations, even though you're not being given, in most cases, the support that you need to meet those more aggressive goals. So having the right tools in place can really help kind of fill in some of those gaps. And yeah, just more channels to manage in general. So we are going to go through a lot of those channels today. And I'm not expecting anyone to walk away prepared to do all of these things, but hopefully you can take away one or two tactics or ideas that you can try out. So just to run through a couple of, the basic overall like changes that are happening in the giving space. So according to the Giving USA 2025 annual report, individual giving is going up and most other giving sources are also increasing rather than decreasing. So as you can see here, all of these different sources have gone up except for bequests, but totals making up, so that's made up by individuals, foundations, corporations, all of these sources of giving have gone up in the last couple of years. So this is a great sign. The trend overall is upward. And the giving to all types of organizations also went up in 2025. So as you can see from this list, religion, education, health, all across the spectrum of nonprofits, giving went up rather than down. So these are all really good indicators that giving is still alive and well. People are charitable. There are funds to be had. But one of the challenges is that organizations are relying too much on major donors. So giving is going up because a few individuals are giving a lot more, right? And so these are going to be more of the sort of major donors, older donors who have more money, more disposable income to give. Um, and so you want to make sure that you're focusing on ways that you can get in front of younger people. And I'm not just talking about Gen Z. We're going to talk a lot about Gen Z and millennials today, but Gen X as well, right? Like we're talking about people who are not the sort of traditional donor that you think about when you think about sending out a mailer and somebody mailing in a check, right? I think a lot of organizations are still stuck in the past with like heavily relying on that and maybe trying a few things here and there to get in front of younger people or new types of donors, but you really have to be thinking about, who are the next 60 years worth of donors for our organization? How can we be getting in front of them? So you want to make sure that you're increasing the number of individuals giving in addition to relying on those major donors as long as they're continuing to give. But that is not, a forever sustainable plan for your organization. So need to be online, mobile friendly, on social media, showing up on every channel that you can be. And just to double down on this, Gabe Cooper, the vice chair of Giving USA, said, the broad increases in giving across subsectors show that philanthropy and the nonprofit sectors were thriving in 2024. This growth demonstrates robust donor support for a myriad of causes. So again, all good things here, but how can we diversify who we're reaching and ultimately bring in more money? Yes, I will try to do that, Deb. All right, so changes in giving trends. So we've kind of talked a little bit about that already. So what has changed exactly? We're talking about younger generations seeking long-term hands-on involvement with the issues that are important to them. So this is the younger people are very much engaged with causes, and there's more of sort of an identity-based giving structure or mentality. So people want to give to causes that they know are having a real impact and that they identify with on a personal level or, in their peer groups, right? And so you will see a lot of influencer marketing being a really impactful way to get in front of people. People trust their peers, people trust their friends and family more than institutions. And so while young people do want to get involved with causes and do have, an interest or an investment in charitable causes, they need to, be convinced that this is something that is really going to make a difference in the world compared with sort of the old school version of, people giving because it was almost a status symbol. And not to say that that was any less charitable, but I think we've moved away from the sort of tendency to give just for the sake of giving and to be able to say that you gave to an organization or to be able to maybe get a tax write-off or have your name on a bench somewhere, right? That's less of a priority for younger people, specifically millennials and Gen Z, and I would argue probably a lot of Gen X as well. So you want to make sure that you're figuring out ways to position your cause or your mission in ways that are going to resonate with younger people, right? And their values and sort of the ways that they think about the world. Younger people also rely heavily on technology to inform their giving decisions. And so this is why you want to be online, right? Showing up on all of the channels that you can be. You want to make sure that everything you're doing is mobile friendly. So your website should absolutely be mobile friendly. There's easy ways to test this. There's tools that can help you ensure that all of the pages on your website are showing up on mobile devices and rendering correctly. But I would recommend, checking your own website out on your mobile device, maybe having someone else check it out too, a coworker, a friend, whatever, and making sure that it is like an easy, user experience, an easy kind of journey for somebody who's landing on your website. And Jamie, yeah, I mean, seriously, I think that nonprofits are very focused on baby boomers, and that has historically been a huge base of support for nonprofits. But I really do think Gen X gets forgotten or left out a lot of the time, specifically around like their values and the way that they think about the world, worldviews. So I really do think a lot of the Gen Xers that I know and I'm friends with think about things in the way that most of the millennials that I know think about things. And so I definitely think it's important to include them when we're thinking about reaching the next generation, right? Because there's a lot to be gained from that. So, anyway, yeah, we want to make sure that we're mobile friendly. Check your own website, check all of your landing pages, make sure that if if someone clicks on an ad and then reaches your donate page, make sure that everything is seamless there and that it's easy to give, right? Because you can see a lot of drop off if the process of giving is actually difficult or clunky, and that's a shame if people are really wanting to give and then they kind of are like, this is annoying or there's too many clicks, right? And then young people or, are invested or they invest time in looking for trustworthy and transparent nonprofits to support. And so in general, I think we've we've stopped trusting institutions and traditional advertising as much, and there's more of a focus on like, what am I really being sold? What am I really being asked for? And so to the degree that you can be transparent, a lot of you share impact reports, but find ways to take, tidbits out of your impact reports and include them in ads that you're putting out there, include them on social media, right? So be showing that impact. Photography can go a long way. So if you, can showcase imagery of people receiving your service is great. If there's privacy issues around that, show your volunteers at events, show people at a 5K or a gala that you hosted. So there's lots of ways that you can be showing up online in ways that really show the real world impact. So a lot of you are probably doing a lot of this already, so great if you are, but definitely always be thinking of new creative ways to kind of show up visually, especially on all of these channels. All right, so let's do a quick kind of run through of what Gen Z and millennial donors are looking like. So I've kind of gone through a little bit of this already, but the focus is on giving support to issues rather than organizations. So what is the cause? Do I identify with that cause? They consider themselves to be active social change agents, tech forward approach to learning. And so you want to make sure, again, that you are showing up on all of the channels where people are spending time online and that your website and everything else that you're putting out there is mobile friendly to make for an easy user experience. Participating, younger people participate in crowdfunding more than older generations. So any room to do that is great. Working with influencers is also a great way. And I'll get into some specific recommendations around that. That can be a little harder, but I do think it's not as daunting as you all might think it is. It's easier than you think to connect with micro influencers, which we'll get into a little bit more detail about in a few minutes. So, how can you focus your efforts? You want to evoke action through impactful storytelling. So, like we were saying, imagery, showing the impact, sharing stats, real stats, however many dollars provides however many meals to a family, your donation helped spay or neuter however many animals. So, whatever you can do to put things in terms of stats, numbers, and show things visually is great. And then explore partnerships with other people and organizations to help expand your network. So this can be influencers, this could be other local organizations, volunteers often can be great evangelists for your cause, and sponsors. Think about ways to include your sponsors outside of just them, their name being on a napkin at a gala, right? So there's lots of creative ways that you can involve all of these partners that you already have a little bit more. And then just to dive a little deeper into the specific online behaviors of these two personas. So millennials make up the largest percentage of the US population today. Age range is 29 to 44. They spend 6.5, I should say we spend 6.5 hours online daily. I feel like it's a little more for me these days. And the primary platforms that millennials use are Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Millennials tend to prefer long form content like detailed videos and podcasts. So you can get away with a little bit longer form, videos, text, blog articles. Millennials love some blogs, and they're likely to convert through more likely than Gen Z to convert through traditional online ads and social media marketing, as opposed to sort of needing it to be vouched for by a peer or an influencer that you follow and trust. Gen Z makes up 20.81% of the population. Age range is 13 to 28. So obviously the younger half of that is going to be having to ask mom and dad, to pull out their wallet if they're trying to donate. But there's a lot of potential to get people engaged and excited about the cause. So a 13-year-old could be a great person to, bring to a volunteering event and get them excited about something at a young age to ensure that they're going to be, roping their friends in and really be a powerful kind of agent for your organization. And Gen Z is spending a lot more time online, so 10.6 hours average daily on Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, and TikTok. And they're twice as likely to purchase online as millennials. So again, mobile friendly is everything. They're more wary of traditional ads, so they lean more heavily toward social media and influencer marketing. And I'm not saying you need to be on all of these channels. We'll talk a little bit about TikTok and specifically TikTok for nonprofits because they do have a hub that makes it a little easier to get started with TikTok if you are interested in dipping a toe in that, but don't really know where to start. I'm assuming a lot of you on here are on Facebook and Instagram. I think those are usually the most common too. Snapchat, I don't really have any feelings about whether nonprofit needs to be on there. Like if you've tried it and it works, great. If you want to try it, great. But I don't think that this needs to be a priority. And YouTube can also be great. Like you can repurpose content from Instagram and use it for YouTube Shorts. So if you do have a YouTube channel, that's a great place to host content like videos from events, videos, showcasing people receiving your services or a volunteer event, things like that, testimonials. So YouTube can be a great place to kind of house a lot of that content, but Facebook and Instagram are definitely the big ones. And they are the ones where if you're trying to capture as much of Gen X, Gen Z, and millennials as possible, Facebook and Instagram are two of the main channels that you see a lot of overlap if you're trying to kind of do a lot with just one platform. And then when you're trying to sort of reach both of these groups, and again, I think a lot of this does apply to Gen X as well, you want to focus on impact. You want to, again, drive that sort of feeling of transparency and authenticity. They have less money than older generations, but they do place equal value on other assets, which is a cool thing to think about. So, time, social networks, leadership skills, ideas. So, any ways that you can involve younger people in your organization's work. Think about different ways that that could look, right? If you want to get involved with a local college or university and bring, in an IT person or something to kind of help out with your website. If you want to, yeah, connect with local organizations to get younger people involved in creative ways, right? There's a lot of room to do that outside of just expecting people to give money to your organization, because as we know, not everyone is going to give. And a lot of these people won't give for many years, but you want to make sure that they know that you exist and that your cause is important. And then just some cool ideas to think outside of the box in terms of how you're positioning things. This is an example that I'd love to show, uh, just as a way of kind of repositioning the ask and the impact. So a lot of us see this kind of thermometer of, how close we are to hitting a certain goal. This is all fine and good. But this is a really cool example. So this was a campaign from Mr. Beast, the YouTube content creator, partnered with Team Seas to remove trash from the ocean. And instead of asking for dollar amounts, they framed it as every dollar that you donate is one less pound of trash in the ocean. So this was a really cool way to actually frame the CTA or the ask, right? So instead of do you want to give $20? It's like, do you want to remove 20 pounds of trash from the ocean? Of course I do. I'd rather remove that many pounds than five. And so I think this can be a way to quickly get people to level up how much they're willing to give because you're really putting it in perspective. And then when they showed, the impact, it was really cool to be able to see how many pounds of trash were removed. So as you can see, I think this is a lot more impactful than saying $34 million were raised. This is like, okay, wow, this made a difference in the world, right? Because when you see a number of dollars that was donated, even if it's huge, like 34 million, I think there's always a little question around like where did every dollar go? And so I think if you can kind of see it clearly laid out like this, it's a lot more impactful. It feels more real. And then some other ways to think about some creative fundraising models. So younger people are very accustomed to the subscription, sort of recurring subscription based model. So we all have Netflix, Hulu, like we're used to paying on a monthly basis for things and have like a small charge each month happen. And so this could be a cool way to think about, getting some recurring gifts from younger people. So if you can set up, an ask on your donate page for people to sign up to give $5 a month instead of one large gift. This actually adds up on average to more over time. So recurring givers give more in a lifetime than one-time givers on average because, people kind of set it and forget it. And I think when people opt to give a recurring gift, it means that they are invested. It means that they're saying, yeah, I actually do want to give on a recurring basis long term to this cause because I do care about it that much. So adding that to kind of their monthly spend is a big deal. And so you know that they're kind of in it for the long haul. So this is just a great way to think about things in general. I also saw a really cool example from a nonprofit that we work with. On their donate page, it actually asked people if they wanted to become a recurring giver, and if they did, then their gift would be doubled. So they obviously were working with a 2x gift match campaign, but they were putting it toward the recurring giving. So that was a really cool way to incentivize people to give. To sign up to give on a monthly basis because their gift would be automatically doubled. So that's also just like if you are working with gift match campaigns, think about cool ways you can split that money up, use it in different asks, and use it in creative ways. And then, yeah, you want to make sure that you're giving consistent updates to donors and to supporters and kind of keep that helpers high going to keep them engaged. And then automating a lot of this is obviously key. You're not going to be, sending out thank you emails and pre-engagement emails manually all the time. So having the right tools in place to really have things kind of going in the background and get that trickle of donations and stay on people's radar so that, you're not falling off just because they gave once and, you don't have a thank you campaign set up or a campaign set up to ask them 3 weeks later if they want to become a recurring donor, right? So lots of things that you can do to keep people engaged, but you have to have the right tools set up on the back end to make sure it's all automated so you can save time. And then, yeah, just to talk a little bit about that recurring giving. So, recurring giving is a huge focus because of the subscription economy. And so, on average, based on our Feathr State of Nonprofit Marketing report from last year, nonprofits admit that they're currently doing kind of a mediocre job at first-time donor retention. And so if this is you, you're not alone. There's reasons why it doesn't always take first priority, but it is a critical means to driving that reliable annual revenue for your cause. And so take a look at how you can start working on getting more of these recurring donors. Might just be a quick sequence again of like three automated emails that go out to someone after they donate. And then you're sharing more about your mission. And then on the second or third email, you ask them if they want to give monthly. And if they don't, you continue to engage with them, right? You don't drop off then either. So continual engagement and relationship building is key to getting people to stay long term. All right, let's get into a few of the more tactical things here. But real quick, I do want to launch a little poll just to kind of get a read of what all of you are doing. So I want to know what you're currently doing to reach new people and grow your audience. So I just launched this poll. Go ahead. You can select multiple options. I want to get kind of a sense here. Social media is the main one. I'm going to share the results after this, but just letting them come in. Cause marketing partnerships. Okay. Yeah, partnerships are, I think, an underutilized sort of means to getting in front of more people. And Elizabeth, I will say, so list buying, I know that this is a common practice for a lot of organizations, but one of the things I'll talk about in a minute is having tracking pixels on all of the pages on your website so that you can collect that first party data so that you're not relying as heavily on third party data, buying lists, things like that. You can rely more heavily on first party data, which is people who came to your website and engaged in some way. And it's all anonymous data, right? It's privacy safe, but you're able to kind of track the activity on your website so that you can continue to show up for people and reach them because they indicated an interest. And so this can be a good way to kind of move away from relying so much on purchased lists and relying more on your own owned data. And it's going to be more reliable anyway because it's people who actually are sort of your warmest audience. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. Backlinking is great, great for SEO, great for keeping people on your website for longer. Partnerships, baby, not digital, but bus advertising. Okay, nice. Showing up all over town. Um, Inviting influencers to our shows. I'd love, Tomoko, if you could maybe drop in the chat. I don't want to put a lot of pressure, but I'm curious how you connect with influencers, like who they are and how you establish those connections, because I know that that can be difficult. So I'd love any just like quick tidbits on how you found them and how you connected with them or sort of what you offered in exchange for their participation. So that would be super helpful. Uh, Complimentary memberships. Okay, cool. Handwritten postcards. Nice. Yeah, influencers. Amy, same for you. If you're working with influencers, would love to hear. Um, yeah, love to hear from you. Okay, there are a few theater going influencers in the DC region, and our marketing director reached out to them personally, offered a ticket to come see. Cool. Yeah, awesome. Um, Yeah, and obviously, like influencers are, you can, like, when we think about like food influencers on Instagram, it's like they're being offered free food to go to the restaurant and put it online, right? So it sometimes is as simple as just offering them whatever it is that you're offering other people for free. And so sometimes finding them is the challenge, finding people who are relevant, who have a relevant audience for you. But a lot of the time it's personal connections. So it sounds like your marketing director was able to kind of connect with the right people. Again, this is where having young people on your staff is also really helpful because they will be more in the know about who is online and what people in your space are doing, how to connect with them. So that's my little plug to hire more young people, put them on your advisory boards, give them positions of decision making so they can impact everything. And then for influencers, we had success just reaching out on social media. Cool, cool, cool. And then Amy says we had a contractor help out, and they did a combo of direct outreach for relevant folks our staff was aware of already, and vetting folks through a platform called Collapser. Okay, cool. Yeah, check it out if you haven't heard of that. I've never heard of Collapster, but that's awesome. Thanks for dropping a specific platform that worked. Film Fest, we dial into niche community groups and invite them to specific films that relate to their interests. Okay, love that. Awesome. Thank you guys. Um, okay, I'm going to quickly, let me pull this back up. Um, okay. I think everyone can see the results, right? So social media was the big one. So it seems like all of you are doing that. Digital advertising campaigns, glad to see that people are running digital ads and events. That's not a surprise at all. Some are not focused on this yet, which is totally okay, but we want to make sure that you walk away from today with some ideas about how you can get started. So cool. Will some of these ideas be shared when they're recording? Yeah, I actually will go through the chat again, just because a lot of this stuff is really, really great. So I will pull some of these comments and include them in some way in the follow-up. So that's a great idea, Caitlin. Thanks. Okay. All right, let's move along. So I want to talk about some of the ways that you can get in front of younger people and new people. So you can do this by focusing on where they're spending their time. So we call this geofencing. Um, and this is basically drawing a digital perimeter around a real physical location where people are going to be that are relevant to your cause. And so this might look like geofencing churches, right? Where people are going to be congregating and you know that they're interested in charitable causes. It might be college campuses where you're trying to get your mission or your cause or some of the work that you're doing in front of young college students who are eager to get involved with things and have a lot of energy, have resources to share. Again, time, ideas, things outside of money. Geofencing schools. So with this, you'll be getting in front of not just older kids, but parents of young children. And so if you are trying to reach parents specifically, you can geofence schools and you can get in front of them on their mobile devices. Shopping centers. So the idea with shopping centers, sporting events, malls, places like this is that people in these places have some disposable income, presumably, and might be likely to be able to give. You can geofence wealthy areas of town, wealthy neighborhoods, things like this. And so it's just a great way to ensure that you are bringing in people who are very relevant and might have the money that they need in order to be able to give to your cause. So this is so we call this mobile geofencing. There's also something called historical geofencing. The concept is the same. You can see this is from Feathr. This is just an example of a heat map, right? So this is an example from United Way of Asheville and Buncombe County. So they use Feathr to do their geofencing. And they ran these ads for an annual holiday book drive a couple of years ago. So people who were in this area, and this was, I think, a few malls and some Barnes and Nobles, people who were in this area then saw these ads pop up on their mobile devices. And so one quick distinction is that there's geofencing and then there's historical geofencing. And so you don't need to remember all of this now, but I think it's important to just show that you can do a lot more than just target people in the moment. So you can geofence a place in real time so that people who are there are going to be seeing the ads on the mobile device. You can also do something called historical geofencing. So if the location that you're targeting is somewhere that people are not going to be looking at their phones, right? Like, for example, a theater. If people are at the theater, they're watching the show, they're not on their phones. So you want to do historical geofencing, which basically allows you to target that physical space, but show ads later. So it's like because they were there in the past, they're relevant to me and I want to show them ads now. And so there's lots of different ways that you can set this up. You can set up specific time delays and you can get really creative with the places that you're targeting and all of this and messaging. But this is a really, really great way to think about, okay, who am I trying to target? Where are they spending time? How can I get in front of them? Geofencing is a great way to do that. You can find people based on who they are. So this is leaning a little bit into that third-party data. So again, the goal is to bring people to your website, and once they've landed there, if you have all the right tracking set up, you will develop this sort of base of first-party data that you can then rely on to follow up with people, and those are just warmer people because they've already engaged. But for bringing in net new people, you do need to lean into third-party data, and so you can look at demographic data. In-market data, shopping history, search history, things like this, and target people who are relevant, again, to your cause. So you can look at age, gender, income bracket. You can get really specific and kind of stack segments on top of each other to get a very niche kind of target audience. So you can even, say, okay, I want to reach parents who are between 28 and 43 years old, who have over 100K household income. This is my target audience for this specific ask. And you can get in front of lots of new people who fit these descriptors. And this is, yeah, you can also do things based on interest, values, behaviors, online shopping, things like this. So, for example, people who shop at the children's place and have donated to children's charities. So you can get very, very uh, sort of in depth with this and really detailed in these campaigns. And this is all available in Feathr. This is one of the campaigns that's built in, so you don't have to sort of pay extra to access this. This is third-party data that's available directly in the platform. And you set up ad campaigns the same way that you would do with site retargeting or social media ad campaigns. You're simply creating the ads and showing them to these audiences based on this data. You can target by search terms. And so a lot of you are probably familiar with Google Ads, right? So paid search in the sense of trying to show up at the very top of the search page, right? So somebody types in charities, nonprofits in my city, and then you'd love to show up in that sponsored result in the search results, right? And so if you're using Google Ads, there's a good chance that you might show up for that sometimes. But in addition to showing up on the search results page, you want to continue to show up for that person because they did search for something relevant to you, right? And so search retargeting is just that. So if they search for something like local pet shelter, you may or may not show up on the search results page, but if they click around, whatever, leave, and they don't ever come across your organization can then show up in display ads as they're browsing other sites across the web because they did that search. And so this is a really, I think, great campaign type to use in combination with paid search and with Google Ads. So if you are doing Google Ads, if you have Google Ad Grants, this is a really cool way to sort of add onto that and just kind of continue showing up, make sure that you're not dropping off just because you didn't populate in that top spot on the Google page. Oops. And so just a few examples of search ter or yeah, like search terms that you could actually target. So charities, nonprofits near me or in my city, where to volunteer. And so it's not just finding donors, right? You can find volunteers, you can actually find beneficiaries. So if you're an organization that offers services to people and you want to get in front of more of those people, most people have mobile devices, regardless of where they're at in life. Most people have a phone, and so, a smartphone. And so you can reach a lot of people who might be a good fit for your cause or for your services through search targeting and through all of these things, geofencing as well. So, if you are a homeless services shelter and you know that there's areas of town where unhoused people tend to congregate or spend time, you can geofence those areas to serve ads on the mobile devices of those people so they'll know, oh, hey, I can go here on this night of the week, get some food, get this or that. So there's a lot of ways that you can use these different campaign types to reach not just donors, but volunteers, advocates, partners, sponsors, beneficiaries, all of that. Okay, and then let me run another poll real quick. I want to get into re-engagement. Um, okay, let's do this. Okay, so just answer this for me real quick. So what are you doing to re-engage lapsed donors or members? So there's a lot of ways you can do this, but I want to just get a sense of the main ones. Okay, I'm seeing personalized email outreach is the big one. Drip email campaigns, absolutely. This is critical. Um, okay. Let me. Okay. And then Michelle, the PMAX question I think was for the search retargeting slide, right? From what I know about PMAX, that's specifically related to Google Ads, right? And getting your Google Ads to show up across multiple channels. I'm not super familiar with it, but I think that's specifically related to Google Ads. It might be that Google Ads also allows you to do search retargeting in Google, or display-based related. Yeah, okay, cool. So that must be part of, yeah, sounds exactly the same. So if you're already doing that in Google, great. You can do it natively in Feather as well. Um, so I think like when you're doing one campaign type in a platform, sometimes it's great to just kind of manage as many different channels as possible in the same platform so that you have more of an apples to apples reporting outcome from that. So we try to make as much of the campaigns and channels that you're running available to actually do in Feather. So you can also manage your Google ad grant in Feather if you were using one of those. Okay. You've had a lot of success with PMAX for donor acquisition. Wonderful. Cool. Okay, let me end this and share the results. Okay, so as we can see, personal email outreach, not a surprise at all, highlighting impact stories. And I would say this is kind of its own thing. You can highlight impact stories in email, on social media, right? In your ads. So this is kind of, I think, something that everyone should be doing. Um, in all of your different content and across channels. It's just something you want to incorporate into your messaging in general. Targeted digital ads seems a little lower here. So there's some cool ways that you can use ads to get in front of people that you've already engaged with. So I'll show that in a minute. Events, exclusive offers. Okay, cool. Alrighty, let's get into it. So at a very basic level, right, your best prospects are the people who somehow already know you. So this is going to be past donors, past members, current members, event attendees, so people who've come to one of your events, people who have visited your website. So this, I think, is the one that's the most kind of elusive. It's like, okay, people who visited my website, I know that they're interested, but how do I actually get in front of them, right? And so, one of the ways that you can capitalize on email lists that you have, we'll get into the website portion of this in a second. So, people who visited your website, that's retargeting. We'll get into that in a minute. But when it comes to past owners, event attendees, members, when you're trying to reach people whose emails you have, you can email them, obviously, which is very important. But you can also reach them outside the inbox with something we call CRM retargeting. We also call it, it's called email mapping and Feather for the Feather customers on this call. So some examples are targeting last year's gala attendees with ads, targeting lapsed members or donors with ads to re-engage them. So the way that this works is that you're using the person's email as a unique identifier to serve ads to them. So you're not sending emails through this campaign type. You're using your email database, everything in your CRM, right? You can take all of the emails of people that you think are relevant for a specific appeal that you're running or an event that you're hosting, and you can email them, inviting them or asking them to get involved. And you can also show them these display ads that show up as they're browsing the web on their mobile devices because you have their email. So it just allows you to kind of create, again, that surround sound digital marketing experience where you're not just relying on them opening an email, which may or may not happen. So this is a great way to, yeah, take advantage of all of those email lists that you have and reach them in different ways. And then when it comes to people who visited your website, but you don't necessarily know them, you maybe don't have their email address, this is all about site retargeting, right? So when we're talking about retargeting, we're talking about those ads that show up. So if you go on Amazon, you look at a pair of shoes, you maybe put them in your cart, maybe you don't, but you spend some time on that page, then you leave. Later that day, you'll see ads for those shoes, right? So that's basic site retargeting. So you can do that too for people who visit your donate page, your about us page, your volunteer page. You want to stay in front of those people because for some reason they got there, whether it was because they organically searched for you, a friend told them about your organization and they searched it. Maybe they saw an ad that you did in a geofencing campaign, clicked on it, got to your donate page, but didn't have their wallet, or they weren't compelled enough yet, or they got distracted. Maybe you reached them through a paid search campaign and they reached your website and they left, right? We know that more than 90% of people who reach the page the first time are not going to donate. And so you have to find ways to stay in front of them, and it's easier than you think. You don't have to set up a whole new website or a whole new bunch of pages, right? You have everything that you need. You just need to set up website tracking. So drop a yes if you are already using a tracking pixel on your donate page. I just want to see all the Feathr users better say yes. Um, but yeah, I just want to see. Okay. Actually, I should have said drop a no. That would be more helpful. Drop a yes or a no, I guess, at this point. But the no's are going to be more indicative, I think, of how much people need to be thinking about this. So yeah, if you are doing it, great. Think about ways to get more in depth with the segments that you're targeting and the different messaging that you're serving to people based on what page, right, they visited. But if you're not doing it, this is a really good place to start. You need to have a tracking pixel on all of the important pages on your website, any web properties. So if you have, an events page hosted on a different platform, you want to be tracking that as well. So on that note, yes, Amy, you can add those pixels to Classy and GoFundMe Pro pages. So we have a lot of pixel-based integrations with other platforms where you're collecting donations, getting event registrations. Let me think. If you're signing up members, if you have an AMS, there's a lot of ways that you can bring that data into Feathr. So by simply tracking the activity on the page and filtering that data into Feathr, you can get a really comprehensive view in one platform of what people are doing on all of your various different web properties, and then follow up with them with relevant messaging based on what they did. So again, absolutely want to be doing that if you're not already. And then email, I'll kind of breeze through this one, but if you are, keep doing what's already working. Don't stop email. Not that anyone's gonna do that, but keep doing what's working. Try to get more creative with, again, your segments. Make sure your subject lines are resonating. And this is just an example of a really pretty email that someone built in Feathr. This is the Japan America Society of Washington, D.C. And is one of the prettiest emails I've ever seen. And you can see here that you can track all of the typical metrics here and conversions as well. So this email garnered 681 event registrations to this street festival. So really cool to kind of see the breakdown per ad per email. And then you know what, before, I know people tend to kind of drop off at this point. So let me run a quick poll before people start dropping. Um, Give me one sec here. Okay. So if you would like to learn more about Feathr, kind of get a walkthrough of a lot of the stuff that you've heard about today and seen here today, go ahead and drop a yes, and I'll connect you with someone who can give you a more personalized demo. So you can talk about any of this stuff. You can talk about any other questions that you have and kind of give some context on what your organization is doing and get really like a more in-depth, personalized walkthrough of how a platform like Feathr can help your organization, help you get in front of new people, help you get in front of existing donors, um, help you get more volunteers, more just visibility in general online. Can I set up a tracking Pixel on my own, or is that something your team does for us? Great question. So you can, it's very easy to do on your own. So Feather is a self-serve platform, but we do offer some services to kind of help out. Also, let me, while I'm thinking about it, drop in this page. You can learn a little bit more about our solutions for nonprofits on this page, and there's a little bit of context at the bottom of this page about the services that we offer and our support team and all of that. Um, but yes, you can set it up on your own. Our onboarding team is great, kind of helping you get started and up and running and they make it feel really easy to do things on your own. And obviously, support is there as needed. But we also can absolutely help out with setup, campaign setup, and data integration and things like this. So yeah, lots of options there. Okay, I'll leave this poll up for anyone who has not answered yet. But let's quickly go through a little bit of social media stuff, and then I'll get into some KPIs after. So for social media, if you're trying, again, to reach millennials and Gen Z, there's lots of different platforms that they're spending time on, right? So you can see here that millennials are spending time on these platforms here, longer attention span. You can get away with longer content. Um, and they are old enough to make purchasing decisions. About half of Gen Z is old enough to make purchasing decisions, might have a little less money to give, but you should still be reaching them. So shorter attention span, the short videos, TikTok obviously is like very, very popular. And so if you can create some short form content, that can perform really well. No, Tamiko, there wasn't anything about the Gen X profile, but I'm absolutely going to add that in. This is a presentation that I created a lot of these slides in the context of how to reach millennials and Gen Z. This is a presentation I gave last year, and it wasn't including Gen X because it was specifically about them. But then as I'm talking about the younger generation, I do think that including Gen X profile in this overall presentation will be helpful. So I'm going to add in some information about them for future versions of similar presentations. But I really appreciate the feedback, guys, on feeling like that's also a priority and wanting to have a little bit more information around that. So I'm going to educate myself and then share that with you all later. Um, yes, yes, for sure. I think that yeah, and they have more, income to give. They have more sort of like decision-making power and resources. And so it's definitely a demographic that we want to be reaching and not forgetting about. It's actually like I know that they're called the forgotten generation, which is crazy because I see why, but it's like let's not do that in the nonprofit space. Let's be very aware of everything they have to give. Okay. And then again, so that short form video content, you can do shorts on YouTube, you can do Instagram stories, and TikToks are great. Make your language memorable, keep things brief. So obviously you want to have impactful, memorable language and leveraging influencers too. TikTok for nonprofits. Sorry to Deb who called me out for the fast talking at the beginning. I'm going to be speeding it up again because I know we're coming up on the hour. But TikTok for nonprofits. So this is a great resource to just check out if you've never heard of it. Some quick tips for TikTok is you want to keep things between 15 and 60 seconds long on the shorter side of that. I've noticed TikToks are getting longer and longer, so it's kind of a variety, but if you keep things short and sweet, you're going to be more likely to get that engagement. Tell stories that show humanity. TikTok for Good, sorry, is the name of the official hub for charities. So they have a lot of inspo and examples for organic sharing. So again, take a look at that if you're interested in trying TikTok out or seeing if it's the right fit for you. And try new things, but be realistic about sustainability. So if you feel like you have, a young person on board who really gets TikTok and they have a bunch of ideas and they feel like they can keep it up every week, great, try it out. If you feel like it's something you should be doing, but you do not have the resources, don't maybe like look into it, but don't start it if you don't feel like you can maintain it. Influencer marketing. So again, I'm going to share a lot of what people shared in the chat because there was, I think, better information there because it's stuff you are actually doing. But just to kind of zoom out, finding influencers kind of just comes down to figuring out who you want to connect with based on their audience, their message, their identity. and reaching out to them. So aiming for those micro influencers is better than trying to partner with someone like Mr. Beast, right? If you feel like you have a case, go for it. But I think that these people are going to be a better combination of having a higher engagement, having more availability to engage with an organization like yours, but still having a broad reach. And then make sure that you are regularly showing the impact of that influencer's contributions. And again, just kind of having that exchange, giving them a free ticket, giving them free access to something in exchange for them to come and share your organization's work with their audience online and some quick KPIs and things to aim for. So again, I will be sending this out so you'll have access to kind of look through all of this in more detail and, compare it to what you're currently doing. But when it comes to social media, the social media algorithms do prioritize friends, family, personal connections over businesses. And so when it comes to organic, simple organic posting, you're going to get about 10% of the visibility that you want when you boost a post. So boosting an organic post, paying a little bit to get it out there, you get more like 20 or 30% of visibility, but it's just not enough. You have to be using paid ads on social if you really want to get in front of people. It gives you the best reach and more flexibility in terms of how you're showing up, what your ads look like. And so this is a no-brainer for nonprofits. And then if you're trying to focus on the cusp of both generations, focus on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. So I said that earlier, but I think it's important to remember probably a lot of you probably are on these three channels or at least a couple of them. So keep doing that. Just figure out ways that you can put a little budget behind different things and test out what really works and what gets you the best reach. Um, and play around with, yeah, your ad creatives, imagery, messaging. Think about whether the way that you're talking about your cause actually resonates with the way younger people think about the world, right? So there's ways to, I think, reframe. I don't know, like your mission might be something that there's some language there that you always say and you use, you have your elevator pitch and no one's ever really revisited it. So make sure that the way that you're talking about things, the way that you're pitching your cause, the way that you're asking is going to resonate with younger people, right? Um, and so, even like an example for an environmental organization, rather than save the planet, you might think about incorporating the word sustainability in there, right? Or when you're talking about human services, you might talk about equitability, equity, access, equal access, rather than, help homeless people, right? It's like thinking about the actual language that you're using, making sure that it is sort of with the times. And so, I think that's something that often goes um like is not prioritized because you kind of just what your mission is and you're trying to get it out there, but like definitely take a step back and make sure that you're using the right language. And then for budgeting and KPIs around social media, for fundraising ads, you want to aim for an average return on ad spend of around 48 cents for Meta, 17 cents for TikTok. And obviously, you're spending a dollar to get less than a dollar back. So this doesn't look great, but that's because social media is a top of funnel approach. You're not going to see the conversion levels that you see from email or cart abandonment campaigns, right? It's going to be more, you're spending more to get in front of people, bring them in, and then you see those conversions happen on the lower end of the funnel. So you have to put in the money to see the money, obviously. TikTok has high organic reach, but the lowest engagement. So it's great for visibility, getting out there, but you want to make sure that you're doing other things to drive those conversions. Make sure that you're using UTM codes to monitor where your website traffic is coming from all of these social media channels. So just use Feathr lets you create tracked links. Hopefully, whatever platform that you are using allows you to create those sort of customized links so that you can see, okay, based on this link, I know that this person came to my donate page from this TikTok ad or whatever. So tracking everything is key. And then for search and display ads, you're going to see a click-through rate for acquisition of 0.2 to 0.3%. You want to be aiming for this benchmark. CPM or cost of serving 1,000, your ad 1,000 times is just under $3 on average. And then cost per click is around 540. And then the for the return on ad spend, you can see that you will get a bigger return for search and display. And again, this is because these are channels where we see more action, we see more conversions. Social media gets people aware of your cause, and then these middle of the funnel and bottom of the funnel campaigns drive decisions and ultimately bring in donations and bring in contributions. Okay, I've gone a couple minutes over. Thanks to everyone who has stayed on board. But remember, your best benchmark is beating yourself. Don't compare yourself to too many other companies or organizations. Just do your best, try something new, and just iterate and improve from there. So thank you everyone so much for joining. And then I'll stick around for another minute in case there's any other questions. But this was a great engagement today. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing ideas that work for you, sharing questions. I'm going to go through the chat and pull a lot of this and share it in the follow-up. So be on the lookout tomorrow for the recording and the slides, and I will hopefully see you on the next one. Bye, everyone. Oh, Jamie. So someone mentioned PMAX. So this is it stands for Performance Max, and this is basically I'm not the most familiar with this, but it is let's see. So Performance Max is a Google Ads campaign type that uses AI automation to show ads across all of the Google channels. So this is YouTube, display, search, Discover, Gmail, Maps, things like this. So a lot of the mobile apps, Gmail. So it just kind of diversifies where you're showing up with Google Ads. And so it seems like if you're already using Google Ads for paid search, you can use PMax to kind of get in front of or get on multiple channels with Google Ads. Um, yeah, so definitely check that out. And I think that came up in the context of talking about search retargeting. So search retargeting is something that you can do natively in Feathr, but Google also offers that natively, so you can do that there as well. And reminder that you can manage your Google Ad Grant in Feathr. So if that's something that you're doing, you can manage that directly in the Feathr platform. And we also have a service offering where we'll manage your Google Ad Grant for you if that's helpful, because I know that that can be a difficult one to maintain and kind of meet the requirements for month over month. And okay, yeah, you do mostly retargeting and geofencing. Yeah, so definitely worth looking into to kind of get on more channels easily. Okay, cool. Alrighty, I think that's it. Thanks, everyone. Take care.